What is up, everybody? ¿Qué tal todos? And welcome to the NHL Strategy Show. Y bienvenidos al programa de estrategia de NHL. It's World Cup, so you got to have, the NHL subtitles. It is a Monday. Caffeinated. Welcome to the Stokastic NHL Strategy Show, sponsored by BetMGM. I am your host, Josh Harris. Joining me, as always, on this adventure that always takes turns off the NHL path, Michael Clifford. How are we doing today?
Not too bad. Just telling you before, I don't know. I haven't seen anyone else in over a week, but I still feel like I have a cold for some reason. I don't know where I would have got a cold. I don't know, just that time of year, I guess. But lots of hockey today. A little bit of World Cup action. We got USA kicking off right now as we're launching this show. So good luck to you and Team USA. But lots of hockey today, lots of hockey Wednesday, lots of hockey Friday, lots of hockey Saturday. Nope, not much on Tuesday and Thursday because it is Thanksgiving week. That's just the way the scheduling goes. But whole boatload of games coming up when they do have them this week. So lots to talk about looking forward.
Yeah, and I'm going out to California for Thanksgiving. I was going to fly on Wednesday because worst travel day of the year, might as well just do it. And then I was like, 15 games. Jesus. So decided to fly out on Thanksgiving because I don't like turkey. I don't really like Thanksgiving food. So we'll fly on Thanksgiving. We'll maybe cook a brisket on Friday or something. But the NHL schedule thankfully lets up with this 12, 2, 15, 1 next week. We have medium-sized slates next week. I'm excited about it. Can't wait because as much as I love talking about 15 games in a night, it is hard to get it in 15 or in 55 minutes without, taking shortcuts. So, but while you all are here, please give us a like and subscribe. I like my likes. So you can keep up with all of our shows, DFS offers, giveaways, and much more. Once you subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. If you're here, you probably already know that. If you're listening on your way home from work after the show, this is to you. Do that. You get a nice little message. You say, you're on your lunch break, go listen to some hockey. We're also available in podcast form of the platform of your choice. Help us out by leaving a 5-star review. Helps these shows stay free, which is always good. Everyone loves some free stuff. So let's hop into this 10-gamer here. Interesting slate here. There's nothing there isn't really a massive chalk spot. I would say there are some spots that kind of stick out, but looking through the ownership, there isn't anything where you go, well, that ownership is so high that I think I have to fade it, which is nice for a bigger slate. There's obviously some lines with double-digit ownership that we'll get to, but a lot of the spots that I like don't have too much ownership outside of maybe one spot. And of course, it's a late night hammer. We talked about it in the chat, how miserable our lives are on late nights with these West Coast games, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Let's hop into this first game. We have the Boston Bruins with a 3 total heading into Tampa Bay. The Lightning also have a 3 total. Linus Ullmark confirmed, Andrei Vasilevsky probable. Jake DeBrusk sticking on that top line. They switched up those lines on Saturday. Pastrnak down on that second line with Pavel Zacha and David Krejci. Status quo for the Lightning means Taylor Hall's down on the third line with Charlie Coyle. This is a tough 5-on-5 matchup for these top 6 of both sides. And that's why you're not seeing too much ownership here. You are getting a little bit more ownership on Tampa 1 because usually Tampa sends out Paul against top comp, which means Point, Kucherov, Hagel will avoid that Bergeron matchup here. I don't know if I'm going to really be prioritizing anything on either side in 1 to 3 lineups here, but I think, getting into 20 max, getting into 150 max, I think there's stuff to like on both sides.
Yeah, it is interesting seeing Pavel Zacha there on the second line instead of Taylor Hall. I didn't think they were really playing that poorly, but I guess there's something going on that the coach doesn't like. It's funny you mentioned the matchups, like the Krejci Pastrnak line. It's not like they've been bad defensively. With Hall there, it was about 2.0 expected goals against per 60 minutes. With Zacha there, maybe it gets a little bit worse, but Zacha and Krejci were still, well below average by expected goals against in their limited minutes together this year. They haven't played a ton together. So, I think they're just both pretty tough matchups for both Tampa lines here. So, I think that's why you're seeing a fairly muted implied goal totals on both sides here. The ownership, as you mentioned, is really apparently King Bacon Pie really likes Tampa or Boston.
That was Dobby the free elf. He must have saw a leaf blow by because he's up on the stairs.
Gotcha. Because there isn't much ownership here. About 4% on the top Tampa line, about 1%, 2% on the top Boston line. Obviously, it's a lot cheaper with Jake DeBrusk there instead of David Pastrnak. But, we just look at Pasternak's last game to see how perilous it can be to leave him off a Boston stack. So I think if you want to do anything here with Boston, it's the same thing that we kind of talked about on the last show. It's just power play stacking them. Like if there is a weakness that Tampa Bay has, it is their penalty kill. It's still only about the middle of the league by goals against, a little bit worse by expected goals against. They are taking a fair amount of penalties as well, about 3.7, 3.8 times shorthanded per game. That's, a lot worse than the league average. So I think you want to probably go back to the Boston power play guys, including Charlie McAvoy. So I think you can mess around with any of those 4 forwards, Marchand, Bergeron, DeBrusk, Pastrnak. That would be the way that I would attack it here. But I'm with you. I think this is a game where if I have anything from this game, it would be one-offing players. It would be a one-off David Pastrnak, maybe a solo Charlie McAvoy, maybe a one-off Kucherov or something like that. But I don't think I'm going to have much from the Tampa Bay side here. Boston's penalty kill is just super elite. That's where Tampa hasn't really been making a lot of hay, but that's where they can be very dangerous. They haven't really been that good with Mikhail Sergachev running the top power play. I kind of wonder how much longer that's going to last. So I probably nothing for me from the Tampa Bay side. If anything on the Boston side, it would be like a one-off David Pastrnak, a one-off Charlie McAvoy. I think you can even do like a duo like Marchand Bergeron or something like that if you want. But I don't think I think I'm going to be going single entry here tonight. I don't think there's a full line that I'm going to stack on either side here.
Yeah, I like the Charlie McAvoy call. Let's get to that blue line. He's only 5,700. He's coming off a 4-assist game where he also had the shot bonus. I think he had 7 shots on goal. He was firing the puck. It was nice to see. For that price, I think, he's fine to one off if you're in that range. Other than that, not much there really. And on the Tampa side, there's just, just nothing that really jumps off the page.
Yeah, I agree, especially where prices just don't seem that reasonable, like 6,500 Victor Hedman over on DraftKings. Like now that he's on power play 2, he's not really shooting a lot. I think he's down like 2.2, 2.3 shots per game this year. That's a pretty big problem. So yeah, I do like McAvoy. I think Brandon Carlo could be fine over on DraftKings. He's one of those super cheap defensemen. You know, he's getting 18, 19 minutes. He can definitely get the block bonus. If he gets the block bonus and like one shot on goal, he'd be just fine at 2,700. So I don't mind him there. I don't think I'll be paying up for either of the expensive Tampa Bay D-men though.
Agreed there. So let's move on to the next one. We have the Edmonton Oilers with a 3.0 total. Heading into New Jersey, the Unstoppable Devils have a 3.6 total. Stu Skinner, probable. Vitek Vanacek, also probable for the Devils. Looks like Holla is with Hughes and Bratt, Tatar, Heischer, Fabian Zetterlund, third line of Sharangovich, Bachwist, Mercer. Matthias Janmark still on the top line for the Oilers. Second line of Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, and McLevin, Warren Fogle. I always talk about it. Lower Owen McDavid always gives me the heebie-jeebies. At that ownership, and how like Ryan Nugent Hopkins is fairly priced. Like Zach Hyman's up at 6,900. I think, Edmonton power play stack, some sort of Edmonton power play stack, even though the Devils have been pretty good this season, they've actually been really good this season. They've won 12 in a row, is fine for GPPs just because, Connor McDavid at 5% always scares me. On the Devils side, if Heischer goes out against that McDavid line, I have a lot of interest in Hughes and Bratt tonight. I just, their ownership right now is around 6-7%. I just don't want to see it creep up into double digits throughout the day.
Yeah, I do want to start on the Edmonton side here. I don't think that second line doesn't look very good to me with Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins and Warren Fogle. Whenever Fogle and Draisaitl have played together over the last, I guess, couple seasons, but I would say since Jay Woodcroft took over in February of last year, took over as coach, they have about 60 minutes together, and they're only generating 46 shot attempts per 60 minutes, which is pretty bad. They're just not generating anything. And Ryan Nugent Hopkins, he's good on the power play. He's good enough at 5-on-5, but he's not going to be a huge offensive driver on that line. So I think that Edmonton matchup, Draisaitl against that Jack Hughes line could be very advantageous for Hughes and Bratt. It's the Edmonton top line. It's weird how Zach Hyman's season has worked out, because if you look at his shot rates with McDavid and without McDavid, it's night and day. Like he's literally taking twice as many shot attempts when he's on McDavid's wing than when he's on Draisaitl's wing. It's kind of sucks that Hyman's price really hasn't come down that much. It's still 6,900, so it's very expensive, but it's a brutal 5-on-5 matchup going up against Hischier, Fabian Zetterlund, and Thomas Tatar. They've been absolutely electric defensively so far this year. 1.5 expected goals against in 110 minutes together. 0.5 actual goals against, as the goaltending has really held up. So I think if they're going to get there, I agree with you. It's going to be on the power play. So, I think I would just two-man McDavid and Hyman or something like that. But I don't know if this is a game where I would be running out to play the Edmonton power play. Like New Jersey has a top 10 penalty kill, and they're not really taking a lot of penalties. They're at 3.2, 3.3 times shorthanded per game, which is under the league average. So I think I'm more on the New Jersey side here, because Edmonton is a heavily penalized team. They're taking 4.1 times shorthanded so far this season. I think the league average is at about 3.4. So, over 20% worse than the league average in penalties per game. So it's the New Jersey power play guys that I like. It's Hughes and Bratt in particular that I like going up against that Leon Draisaitl line. Hughes and Bratt have been very good together, that line so far this year, with Eric Hall at 3.4 expected goals generated. Jack Hughes still taking a lot of shots. Ice time has come down a little bit lately. He's been closer to around 19 minutes than he has 21 plus that we've seen him at times this year. But with the way Edmonton takes penalties, with a somewhat depleted lineup. And like that top line just hasn't been that good defensively for the Oilers. 3.9 expected goals against so far this season. So like I think that Hischier line is fine as well, but I would want the two guys on the power play with Hughes and Brad. I think you're fine to just power play stack the Devils here, honestly, in the hopes that they do get 4 or 5 power plays in this game. So it's Hughes and Brad, and throw in Eric Hall if you want, that I like the most, but it's probably some sort of power play stack from the New Jersey side that I would be leaning towards here. And ownership's coming in just fine, 5% on the top on the Hischier line, about 6 to 7%. On DraftKings anyway, on that Hughes line. Maybe they come in a little bit higher, but this is a 3.6 total at home against a team that takes a lot of penalties. I really do like the New Jersey power play here.
Yeah, and I think that ownership may come in fairly accurate, because at times when Hughes and Brad have been really popular, Hughes was in like the low 6s, Brad was in the high 4s, low 5s. They are a bit pricey, so maybe they stay where they're at. And let's move to that blue line. Dougie Hamilton, 7K, I think is one of my favorite plays on the blue line tonight, especially if, Edmonton does live up to their penalized self and the Devils do get 4 or 5 power plays. So Dougie Hamilton, interesting. I'm interested in Dougie tonight. Ryan Graves as well at 3,400. His price seems just to not move. He just goes from 31 to 34 to 30. Like he's always in that 31 to 34 range, and it's perfectly fine. On the Edmonton side, probably just Evan Bouchard, maybe Cody Ceci if you want some shot blocks.
Yeah, Cody Ceci was kind of the guy I was thinking of, because this feels like a game where he might have to block a lot of shots. Like New Jersey, I think they're still first in the league in shot attempts generated per 60 minutes. So CC at 3,600, he definitely could get the block bonus. Obviously, you want more from him for 3,600, but it seems like he probably has a good blocks floor for this game. I'll mention Damon Severson. He's not getting a lot of ice time, like 17, 18 minutes or whatever, but he's all the way down to 2,500. And that New Jersey second power play unit does get some ice time. So 2,500 running the second power play against a team that could take a lot of penalties. I think Severson's one of the min punts that I like today.
I know we just talked about the Devils, but do you have any interest in Stuart Skinner at 7,300?
Yeah, I think he's one of the cheap goalies that the people should be targeting here. The Devils do generate a lot of volume. The Oilers aren't very good defensively. I think there's a reasonable chance he sees that shot bonus. Just a matter of whether he lets in 2 goals or 6 goals. He could sink you, but I think he does have a lot of upside here tonight.
The age-old question. Volume is king, but volume might suck if you let 5 in. But
yeah,
anyway,
volume can kill.
Yeah.
By the same token.
Double-edged sword. Let's move on to the next one. Let's see how the Flames can screw this one up. Calgary Flames, 3.5 total. Heading into Philadelphia, the Flyers have a 2.5 total. Jacob Markstrom confirmed. Carter Hart also confirmed. Travis Konechny still out. There's some other injuries as well. Flyers going with the top line of Joel Farabee, Morgan Frost, Owen Tippett. Second line of Kevin Hayes, Noah Cates, Zach McEwen. Quite the top 6 there. Ruzicka still on the top line of Lindholm, Toffoli, Dubé, Kadri Mangiapane, Huberdeau, Backlund, Coleman. Looking like all 3 Flames lines here are going to have some ownership. I'm not really sure where I would want to go here. I wanted to play Huberdeau, Backlund, but they're coming in at almost, if not more ownership than Lindholm Toffoli. So I think Lindholm Toffoli would be my preferred option there. And on the Flyer side, I don't think I'm full stacking anything. I might, end up one-offing someone just because Markstrom hasn't been great and their price is okay, like a one-off Morgan Frost or an Owen Tippett or a Noah Cates because he's on the top power play at 2,900. What are you seeing?
Yeah, Noah Cates was the one guy that stood out. Owen Tippett, he's been shooting a lot lately, so yeah, he's definitely another guy I would one off as well. But yeah, I agree with you. There's not a line on the Flyer side that I'm stacking. On the Flames side, I would probably just go right back to that Ruzicka, Lindholm, Toffoli line. Morgan Frost, Joel Farabee, Owen Tippett top line. Whether or not they actually get top line matchups, I don't think it matters. Whether it's Farabee and Frost or whether it's Hayes and Cates, I don't think the matchup really matters that much for the Calgary top line. And that top line has been very good. 4.6 expected goals generated. It's still just 55 minutes played, but they've been dominating the shot attempt differentials as well. Like that top line has just been very, very good since Adam Ruzicka got added. They're not getting a lot of ice time. Ruzicka probably around 14, 15 minutes. Maybe you'll get Lindholm up around 19, and then Toffoli somewhere in between that. But it's kind of the case for every Calgary line, right? Like I was looking over their last 3 games. Michael Backlund and Elias Lindholm both around the 19-minute mark. Backlund a little bit more. And then Huberdeau, Toffoli, Kadri, 16 to 18. And then the rest of the guys like 12 to 14. Like they're really just playing their centers a lot. And then, just kind of, their top 3 centers anyways. And then just floating the wingers through. I think that's why you're seeing such heavy ownership on Huberdeau, Backlund, and Coleman. Like Backlund's leading them in ice time amongst their forwards in the last 3 games. And he's, quote, the 3rd line center. So, I think I would probably just want to get away from the ownership, get the power play guys, go Lindholm, Toffoli, add Ruzicka if you want. I think Ruzicka's fine to leave off for now. He's shooting 33% or something like that. Like eventually he's got to just, take a Shane Pinto and go a few games without a goal here. So I think it's Lindholm, Toffoli. And then, if you want to add in Huberdeau because he's reasonably cheap, I think that's fine. Rasmus Anderson on the blue line, you can do that as well. It's just, I think it's the top line I like. Just they've been playing extremely well. We'll get a reasonable amount of minutes, and the ownership I think will be more in our favor than dipping down to the less expensive guys.
Yeah, agreed. And I'm just concerned at some point they're just going to go back to Huberdeau, Lindholm, Toffoli. So leaving off Ruzicka makes some sense, especially if you put in Huberdeau because he's 4,400 on the top power play here. Let's move to the blue line. Rasmus Anderson running the top power play at 5K is fine, I guess. Noah Hannafin, 4,900. He's the peripherals guy. Like Mackenzie Weegar, 4,100 interests me as well. On the Flyer side is probably Sanheim for me, and that's probably it. I guess like Tony DeAngelo is fine. I don't know. There's probably others that are a bit cheaper that I'd rather play.
Yeah, I mean the thing with Tony D is that I think he's cracked the 30-minute mark twice in his last 5 games or something like that. Like he's averaging 28 minutes a game of late. I mean, there's a couple overtime games in there, but he's just playing a lot as that third pair just really isn't seeing much ice time. So there is an ice time, factor here with DeAngelo, but the Flames, you want DeAngelo in the good power play spots. And yeah, the Flames do take a lot of penalties, but they also have a really, really good penalty kill. And, with Konechny out and, Atkinson's out and Van Riemsdyk's out and et cetera, it's like eventually they're going to run out of goal scorers to have on that top power play. So I think, it's just probably just Travis Sanheim that I like from the Flyers side. Noah Hannafin, still putting up tons of peripherals, still relatively cheap. I think he's fine if you're not playing Rasmus Anderson in Calgary stacks.
Concur. As we mentioned off the top, we are sponsored by BetMGM. We got a new promo for you since it's World Cup time. Bet $10 and win $200 if any team scores a goal during the World Cup. Now, we have confirmed that if the game ends 0-0, and the person signing up followed the steps as outlined in the terms, they'll receive their free bets. They just worded it that way for marketing purposes, which I understand. So all you got to do is click the link in the description or the pinned comment to sign up. Bets must be on the pregame money line. It's available in everywhere except for New York, Pennsylvania, Mississippi, and Ontario. After, it's available from now until December 4th. After the 2-week period is up, the offer will be only available in Kansas, Illinois, and Louisiana. So it's easy enough. Sign up, bet $10, get $200 in free bets if any team scores a goal or the game ends 0-0. Got to be pregame money line. Easy enough. World Cup. Who doesn't like betting on the World Cup? I have a couple bets today on the World Cup game, so let's do it. Let's move on to the next one. New York Islanders, 2.8 total, heading into Toronto. The Maple Leafs have a 3.6 total. Ilya Sorokin, Eric Kallgren confirmed in net. Leafs going back to Bunting, Matthews, Nylander, Kerfoot, Tavares, Marner. Barzal broke his scoring drought this season, scoring 2 goals the last game. Now, this isn't the best matchup. I just like the Leafs top line not getting extreme ownership for them. I just don't like the way that these lines are constituted. Like Marner with Tavares, not good historically. Matthews with Nylander, not great historically. This isn't a very good power play spot. They're facing Sorokin. Dare I say, I'm probably just fading this game.
Yeah, I wonder how long these lines are going to stay together because Matthews with Nylander and Tavares with Marner is how they started the game on Saturday against Buffalo, and they went away from it after like 2 shifts, and then they scored 3 goals by the end of the period and ended up winning 5-2. So they started the game with this lineup, changed it, smashed Buffalo, and then are going back to the lineup that they started the game. Like, anyways, that's why I think if you do anything with Toronto, it does have to be some sort of power play stat because I don't have any confidence that Matthews, Nylander skate together for the entire game and that Tavares and Marner skate together for the entire game. So, I think, I'm not sure that I would go out and play bunting Matthews, Nylander. Like if I do it, it'd probably be, Matthews, Nylander, Marners or Matthews, Tavares, Marner or something like that. Even though, like you said, this is a pretty bad power play spot. The Islanders have an elite penalty kill, don't really take a lot of penalties, around league average, a little bit under, I think. Ilya Sorokin's playing pretty well this year. And as you mentioned, Matthews and Nylander and Tavares and Marner don't have good numbers. Like they don't have good finishing numbers going back a couple of years. In their small sample this year, both lines are underwater by shot attempt share. Like, there are some expected goals metrics that are in their favor, but they're small samples. I'm just going by shot attempts, and they've both been out attempted in their minutes, which is why I'm wondering if they're going back to the lines they got away from. But anyways, and the other thing that bothers me is Austin Matthews' ice time. He's a guy that we could generally rely on for at least 20 minutes a night, sometimes 21 plus. He played 14 on Saturday night. 2 games before that, he played 15-50. In 2 games, and the game before that, so 3 out of the last 4 games, he's played under 17 minutes. Under 17, if he plays 17 minutes in a bad power play spot against Ilya Sorokin, I think I'm with you. This is a situation where I'll probably just pass on the Leafs. Not a good PP spot. Sorokin in net, can't rely on the lines. Even the lines that they do have, I don't think are that good. I think they're better than the Islanders, but I don't think they're that good. It feels bad to say, but I think this is a spot where I'm with you. I would probably just stay away from full stacking the Leafs, at least in single entry. Obviously, if you're playing 50 lineups or 150 lineups or something like that, you're probably going to have a little bit of them. But, where the ownership is still coming in around 10% on a 10-game slate for that top line, and we're not sure that they'll last past the first 5 minutes of the game, I think I would just stay away from Toronto here. On the Islanders side, there are some guys I don't kind of mind one-offing in this game. Brock Nelson's still shooting a lot. They're going up in that second line against Tavares and Marner. I don't think they're going to be that's not a line that really scares me defensively. I think he's just fine. Kyle Palmieri down on the third line. He's a guy that can score. Only 3,100 on DraftKings, getting some meaningful power play minutes, not a lot. I think that's fine. I think this is just a game where I'm picking one-offs. I don't know if there's a line on either side that I'm full stacking. I just can't trust the Leafs at this point. If somebody else can, all the power to you. Hope it works out for you tonight, but I'm not going in that direction.
Yeah. I just this is surprisingly one of my least favorite games on the slate. One-off Nelson's fine. One-off Barzal's fine. You want a 2-man Nelson and Lee. If you still believe in Lee, I guess that's fine. Tavares, Marner just don't any line with Kerfoot just isn't great anyway. And then Tavares and Marner aren't great together anyway. So yeah, if you want to go to Islanders too, in your MME mix, I think that's fine. 1 to 3, I think I'll just limit it to a Brock Nelson one-off, something like that. Let's move on to the blue line. Noah Dobson, I think, is fine. I kind of like Dobson a little bit more than Tony D. Neither guys I'm going on my way to put in my lineup, but if I happen to be in that range, I don't mind it. Adam Pelech 3,800, also fine. Ryan Pulock down below 4K. On the Leaf side, I think it's Mark Giordano who scored that shorthanded goal that didn't go in the net. I think he's also fine at 3,600. Jordy Ben up to 4,500. I think it's just Giordano.
Yeah, Giordano, I do like. I should mention Toronto also changed their defense pairs in the last game. They moved Justin Hall to the top pair with Morgan Riley. Now they're expected to go back to the old pairings that they had at the start of the game for this game. So, I'm not sure Hall's going to play 24 minutes like he did in the last one. But it's just interesting to know because he is under 3K and he had a lot of ice time in their last game. I just wonder if that's going to happen here again. There's just not a lot that I like here on the blue line. I think on the Islander side, probably going to want to look for blocks. In that case, Pelech and Pulock both block a fair amount. Alexander Romanov obviously blocks a ton, but I'm not sure he brings anything other than that. He's probably in that Cody Ceci category where I think there's a good chance he hits the block bonus, but I'm just not sure that he gets a lot more than that. And that 3,700, I think it's a little bit too expensive. I
agree there. Let's move on to a interesting game here in Canada where I thought there wasn't an airport for a few years, but it was a joke. The Carolina Hurricanes with a 3.3 total heading into Winnipeg. The Jets have a 2.6 total. Pyotr Kochetkov is probable for the Hurricanes. Big save Dave Riddick in net for Winnipeg, which is interesting that it's not Hellebuyck. I know I say Hellebuyck wrong, but it just feels good off the tongue. Sam Gagner still on the top line with Scheifele and Connor, Cole Perfetti, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Blake Wheeler on that second line. Stefan the Nose is still up on the top line with Aho, Netchis, Svechnikov, Kotkaniemi, Jarvis. At some point, I feel like the Hurricanes are going to trade for Bo Horvat and just move Kotkaniemi down. As it is, I don't know if I'm full stacking anything on the Carolina side. I prefer the Carolina side here, especially now that it's Riddick in net. I don't know if I want to full stack. I probably just take bits and pieces from the power play and call it a day.
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm out on the Jets here for a couple reasons. One thing we talk about often with Winnipeg is that they send out that Connor, Scheifele, and Gagner line against the opposing third line. Sometimes, they'll be out against, all the lines at some point, but most of the time they're out against opposing third lines. They do that to try to give them better matchups. Unfortunately, when you play the Carolina Hurricanes and you go out against the third line, that means you're facing Jordan Staal and Jesper Fast. And since Fast has been there, they've been one of the best shutdown lines in the league. It's just an absolutely brutal matchup for that Winnipeg top line. And Carolina's penalty kill, not as good as it was last year, but still good. I think you're perfectly fine to stay away from that Winnipeg top line. The Winnipeg second line, I think Winnipeg 2 is kind of playable here. Carolina's second line doesn't really scare me defensively. They just don't have a sample that we can really go off of. And that's kind of a problem here because in their small sample, Carolina 2 does have pretty good defensive numbers. I'm just kind of surprised by that. But historically, Jesperi Kotkaniemi and Seth Jarvis just haven't played well together. That's kind of one of the reasons why I don't mind Winnipeg 2 here. If I were to stack anything, it would probably be a two-man of Dubois and Wheeler or something like that because Cole Perfetti's just not shooting the puck. And that's a real problem for his fantasy value. So I think if anything on the Winnipeg side, it's a two-man of Dubois and Wheeler. But honestly, there's just not a lot I like there. On the Carolina side, the top line's been pretty good. Not really a big sample to work with, which is a problem. But they have been generating a lot of offense in their limited minutes together. You do get Aho and Natchez both on the top power play unit together as well. But Winnipeg's penalty kill has been improving since the start of the season. And it's just been pretty good on the season as a whole. Only 4.6 expected or actual goals against per 60 minutes this year. That's right in line with, it's pretty close to that Islanders team that we just talked about and how bad of a power play matchup it was for the Leafs. So I don't think it's really a good power play matchup for either side here. So I think if anything on the Carolina side, again, it would be kind of one-offing players. I think a one-off Sebastian Aho is just fine. I think a one-off Andrei Svechnikov is just fine. Now that said, Jarvis, I know I just said it's not a good power play matchup, but just look at his price on DraftKings. It's $2,900. Now that he's priced so cheap and on the top power play unit, I think he's fine as a salary saving one-off. That's just kind of where I am here. I think Dubois Wheeler 2-man is defensible. I'm not going to play it, but it is defensible to play. On the Carolina side, it'd be one-offing some players. If you want to go with the power play one guys, I think you can do that. So, Aho and Natchez, or Aho and Svechnikov, or, Aho and Natchez and Jarvis, whatever you want to do. I think that would be the direction if I full stack anything. But other than that, it's probably just one-offs.
Yeah, I do think the power play, it's not the best spot, but Dave Riddick is a fairly steep drop-off from Connor Hellebuck, one of the bigger ones in the NHL. So, I think, at that ownership, getting in some power play guys, I wouldn't go crazy, like full-on power play stack the Hurricanes, but going like Aho, Natchez, Burns, Jarvis, Svechnikov, Aho, I think is perfectly fine. So let's get to that blue line. Brent Burns, 6,700. I think he's fine. Brady Shea, Brett Pesce, Jacob Slavin, all in the 3Ks, all preference of your price points and styles. I think Slavin and Pesce would be the preferred for me. On the Winnipeg side, Nate Schmidt, Brennan Dillon. That's about it.
We should mention Ville Heinola will be in the lineup on the blue line for Winnipeg here tonight. He hasn't played in the NHL yet this year. He's Winnipeg's top defense prospect. He was drafted there 3 years ago in 2019, I think, and made it to the NHL in his first year in 2019-20, but hasn't been able to stay there consistently. He's been playing a lot in the AHL. 2,500. I mean, I think he's definitely playable at a mince. If you need a $2,500 defenseman on DraftKings here tonight, I just don't know how much ice time he's going to get. I think he genuinely might be around 13 or 14 minutes, and that's a problem. But just want to mention him. I think my favorite play in this game is Brett Pesce at 3,300.
For sure. So let's get to the next game where we do have a pretty chalky line here. Anaheim Ducks with a 2.6 total, staying in St. Louis. I guess they played St. Louis the other night, and they're still there. Jordan Binnington confirmed. John Gibson confirmed. Here's the issue. Tarasenko's out. Kyrie's still on the top line. They're fully correlated. And on DraftKings, they're 13,500. And they broke the slate on Saturday. So,
yeah.
This is the one question mark where you want to do they're not 21,000 where and coming in at 20% where it's expensive chalk. And if they kind of bust, you're screwed. But at 13.5, they really only need one full line goal plus whatever shots they get to hit their value. They're coming in, 13, 14%. On the Ducks side, the Ducks. Okay, so Mason McTavish started the line on the second line with Vetrano and Strome. Then he got moved down fairly quickly because they were getting absolutely run over by the Thomas Buchnevich line. He got moved down to the fourth line and still had the Ducks in time on ice for their wingers. I don't know what they're doing there, but McTavish did play over 18 minutes. I don't know where he'll be tonight, probably on the fourth line. Ducks top line would probably be where I go on the Ducks. But the big question in this game is, what are you doing with the Thomas line?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question because I think there's a pretty good chance they come in as the highest owned line on the slate tonight, even with cheap Nashville lines at home to Arizona that we're going to get to in the next game. That line is perfectly correlated on the power play, and they have been good together, and Anaheim's penalty kill is pretty bad. I think they're fine to play. I know we have them as one of the biggest negative leverage spots here on the slate, but I mean, they have been playing some more minutes. I'm pretty sure Pavel Buchnevich has been around 19 to 20 minutes of late, which is a lot more than he was playing earlier in the season. Jordan Kyrou, he's starting the assists are starting to pile up. That was one thing about him earlier in the season. He went 8, 9, 10 games or something without an assist or something like that. That luck is starting to turn around. the problem is it's like St. Louis doesn't really draw a lot of power plays. I think they're at 2.7 per game so far this year, which is considerably worse than league average. It's just that the Anaheim penalty kill is just so bad. And it's a good matchup. Like they're going to get that Strome-Vetrano line as an in-game matchup. That Anaheim second line, 3.3 expected goals against so far this year.
And they just got ran over on Saturday.
Yeah.
And
I think they're going to move Jacob. They could have Jacob Silfverberg there to start the game. I don't know if that's going to help them really. They could. He has been good defensively at times in his career. Has kind of fallen off of late. I think St. Louis. I think that Thomas Kyrou Buchnevich line is perfectly fine. Like I know they are going to come in with a lot of ownership, but they are in one of the best spots on the slate. I think if you want to fade them, because I think they could come in close to 20% here, I think you're perfectly fine to fade them. It is arguably as good a spot as it is against Arizona, maybe even better, considering how bad that Ducks penalty kill really has been this year. So I do like the line. They are going to come in heavily owned because they're so cheap and such a good spot. But I think even still, you're just perfectly fine to play them and going right back to that well. If you want to go to that Ryan O'Reilly line instead, I think you can do that. They're not really going to come in, like they're not going to come in super high owned, especially with Josh Levo there. I think you're going to have people have Levo leave left off that line. So I think you can 3-man stack that if you want to get away from what should be a pretty high owned St. Louis line. But there's no argument that's Thomas Buchnevich's line. It's just in such a good spot with such a good price that they're really hard to ignore. So I haven't made a firm decision either way yet, but if somebody wants to play them, like I can't say no. Like this isn't the Columbus Blue Jackets, right? This is actually like a pretty good line at home in a pretty good spot at all strengths. So yeah, I do like them here. As far as the Anaheim top line goes, like I think they're fine to play, but Brandon Saad and Ryan O'Reilly have really started to play a lot better defensively of late. St. Louis really doesn't take a lot of penalties. I think they're the lowest in the league for time shorthanded per game at 2.3. So even though they have a bad penalty kill, they might only be on the penalty kill like twice in this game because Anaheim doesn't really draw a lot of penalties either. I think Anaheim top line is fine. I'm not sure if I say like they're like a sneaky contrarian stack or anything like that. It is a tough spot against Ryan O'Reilly, but if you're playing a bunch of lineups, I think Anaheim 1 is a line you definitely have to consider.
Yeah, I agree. I like in 1 to 3, I've been playing that Ducks top line a fair bit recently. I just don't know if I'm going to get there tonight. And just to add on to your point with St. Louis 1, if you are on them and you are worried about ownership, like I think it's fine as long as there's plenty of ways to get different on this slate. Like if you're like we talk about it, ownership's not a tell-all, be-all type of thing. It's just, you kind of worry if you're going to be with, 20% of the field on a big slate. I just think there are plenty of ways to get different.
Yeah, especially where they're so cheap, right? Like it just gives you so much roster flexibility everywhere else. Like you can go and play Roman Josi and still have a pretty good secondary line. Or you could just go ahead and play Boston power play with David Pasternak or, whatever you want to do. Like it gives you a lot of roster flexibility. And I wouldn't worry about like the ownership so much, quote unquote. I would just worry that they come in considerably higher owned than they should be. Like their chance to be a top 2 stack here tonight. That's just kind of the problem. But if they hit, there's going to be a lot of people that have them. So if you don't, it'll be an early night for you.
Yeah. So let's move to the blue line. Now the power play defenseman that correlates with that Thomas Kyrou line is Torrey Krug. Not a huge fan of his he got there in the last game. That was his 4th double-digit DraftKings points performance this season. 4th. I don't think he's necessary if you want to add him in because he's 4,400 and that, you get that whole 4-man power play stack there for 17.9. I think that's fine. But like, again, not necessary. Like he's only had 4 double-digit DraftKings points games this season. I think, not too much on the blue line. Cam Fowler fine at 3,700. As long, he's on that top power play. He's been getting assists at that price. I think he's fine. By the way, Dmitry Kulikov combo meal on Saturday, just out of nowhere, but he's still 3,700. I think he's fine.
Yeah, I think Cam Fowler will probably be the guy because, even if they don't get a lot of power plays, he is on that top power play unit, and the St. Louis penalty kill has been pretty bad. I don't think there's going to be anything for me from the St. Louis side other than Krug because he is on that top power play unit. Colton Parayko may be back tonight. They said he's a game time decision. And if he's back, it's going to be fewer minutes for Mikkola. It's going to be fewer minutes for Falk, et cetera, et cetera. So probably just Krug or nothing for me on the blue side.
Get access to our World Cup soccer package for the entire tournament for just $24.95. That's a savings of over 60% off the weekly price. Sign up now and take advantage of the full benefit of the month-long package. What do you get? You get projections for every game for DraftKings and FanDuel, ownership projections for main slate contest, showdown projections for large game contest, premium player usage, premium Discord. I know nothing about soccer now. I used to be really into soccer. It's kind of fallen off. Recently, I was in the Discord this morning asking some questions, was able to build a lineup. And if you're already a platinum member, you'll have full access to them already. And if you want access to our projections and the Fantasy Cruncher add-on, there is a second link in there for $60 for the entire World Cup. Just click the link in the description, use promo code World Cup 2022. Let's move on to another crazy good spot. Arizona Coyotes, 2.5 total. Heading into Nashville, the Predators have a 3.5 total. Vijmelka probable, UC Saros confirmed. Nick Schmaltz, Jacob Chychrun back for the Coyotes. Predators running back the same lines that they've had recently. This is an excellent power play spot for the Predators. Not the worst power play spot for the Coyotes. Connor Ingram actually just got confirmed as I was talking about it. So Connor Ingram in net for the Coyotes, which I think makes the Nashville power play spot even better. The problem is, I just don't really want to full stack that top line. I don't really want to full stack that second line. If anything, I think it's just two manning, like a Forsberg, Yossi, or doing a Niederreiter, Duchesne. But it's a 3.5 total, excellent power play spot. I just don't like their power play units. I don't like their even strength lines. So I'll probably just take bits and pieces from the power play and stack those. On the Coyote side, it is interesting that Schmaltz is back. That will help them on the top line. That being said, he doesn't have an injury discount. He is $5K. He is on the top line with Clayton Keller. So if you're getting down to the nitty-gritty of your 150 lineups, I think you can have a little bit of that Arizona top line in 1 to 3. I probably am just straight up fading the Coyotes.
Yeah, it was interesting to see so much ownership on Ryan Johansson and Nino Niederreiter. Looks like they're going to be coming in double digits because of the price and matchup. Niederreiter and Johansson haven't played that well together this year. 165 minutes together, 2.7 expected goals against per 60 minutes, only 47.7, so about 48% of the expected goal share, underwater by expected goal share. So this is a line that has been, below 50% expected goal share. And I know it's Arizona, but do I want to play a line that hasn't been playing that well, regardless of matchup, at 10 to 12%, maybe even more, who knows, when it's all said and done, on a 10-game slate where they might not get a lot of ice time. They might only get 14, 15, 16 minutes of ice time. It's not as if the Arizona penalty kill has been that bad. 10th by goals against so far this season, just behind teams like Dallas and New Jersey. Connor Ingram might change things a little bit there, but the problem is that Arizona just takes a ton of penalties. 4.1 time shorthanded per game. That's a big problem for them. But when they're actually on the penalty kill, they're actually not that bad. So I think I'm staying away from that Johansson Duchesne line for sure. Nashville 1 is a little bit interesting to me. They've looked fine in their minutes together, but not great. they're going up against that Arizona top line. Like, I'm assuming it's going to be Schmaltz, Keller, and Boyd. Who knows what the lineup is actually going to be? Arizona just doesn't really provide a lot of updates for their lines.
No reason to, really.
Yeah, but just Keller and Schmaltz have been pretty good together. Like 2.6 goals, expected goals for, 2.9 expected goals against, and over 500 minutes together this year and last year. That's not that far off from the Nashville second line that's coming in at 10, 11% ownership. And, this Nashville's top line is coming in sub 1%. I'm not playing Arizona, but I'm just saying I don't really see a big difference between the Arizona top line and that Johansson Duchesne line. Like, I really don't. So if anything, it would be Nashville 1 for me. I think I'm with you. I think this is just a spot where I'd be looking for one-offs. Like, I think there's just going to be a lot of ownership here, and it's a good spot, but I think this might actually be, I'd rather face the Anaheim Ducks than Arizona, to be honest, just because of the penalty kill situation. So I think one-offs from either side, one-off Forsberg, one-off, if you want to play Parson as a one-off, I guess that's fine. Roman Josi, especially on the blue line, but yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this game compared to the Blues as well. Like, if Duchesne was up on the top line, they're on the top power play, then it's a different discussion. But just the way the lines are, it's not great. So let's move to the blue line. Jacob Chikrin back, no injury discount there as well, 6,300. I have to wait and see on him. It's really just going to be Josi or Ekholm for me, maybe Josh Brown.
Yeah, Josi for sure. Ekholm, obviously. I think Chikrin is playable if you want to get a guy that's probably going to be, low single-digit ownership, even though he's expensive. He can put up a lot of peripherals. He's like a Noah Dobson type, I guess. Maybe you don't want to play him his first game back, though.
Yep. 4 games left, about 8 minutes to get through them. Colorado Avalanche, 3 total. Dallas Stars, 3.1 total. Alexander Georgiev, Jake Ottinger confirmed. Rupe Hintz, game time decision. Dallas won as it is, getting double-digit ownership here with a question mark about Hintz. That has me interested in the Colorado side here. They're getting less ownership. If Hintz is out, I'll definitely have some more interest in Colorado 1.
Yeah, if you want to play Dallas 1 on DraftKings, Rope Hintz is 5,800, I think. Now, if he's out, I don't know who would play center, but Jamie Benn's 4,400 and on the top power play unit and also a center. So worst comes to worst, there is a late swap to go to. You'll be leaving salary on the table, but there is a swap that you can go to that makes sense for Dallas. So I think Dallas 1, I think they're perfectly fine to play here. And I wonder if they come in fairly low owned. Like, we have them 10% ownership now. I wonder if they come in fairly low owned with people being scared of Hintz not playing and this being a later start. So I think Dallas 1 makes sense here. Like, Colorado's top line, they play so much. I'm wondering if they're starting to get a bit worn down because their expected goals against just keeps rising and rising with every passing game. Their goaltending has really been saving them, but the Colorado penalty kill is also pretty bad. In the Dallas power play is arguably the best top power play in the league. So I agree with you. I think Dallas or Colorado 1 is perfectly acceptable to use here, especially where Colorado themselves have a really good power play, and Dallas is one of the most penalized teams in the league. But I think with people probably staying away from Hintz a little bit here because they're worried, and they're also being a late swap that you can go to if you have to get away from Hintz. I think it's the Dallas top line that I like the most here. I think they're going to come in lower owned than the 10% that we're showing. And like I said, there's a late swap you can get to with Jamie Benn.
Yeah, I actually do agree with that. Like, with Hintz being a game time decision, and if he's ruled out, moving Jamie Benn up, you're going to get a pretty low owned combo here. Jamie Benn, top power play as well. He's on pace for 90 something points this season, which is just insane for Jamie Benn in 2022. But moving to the blue line, Miro Heiskanen, 6,200's okay, I guess. Esa Lindell is probably still the guy for me. On the Colorado side, it's Cale Makar.
The problem with Heiskanen is peripherals. He has 0 shot bonuses and just 2 block bonuses on the season on DraftKings. That's not enough for me. I think this is a good spot to use Makar again. He's been playing a ton of minutes with all those defensemen injured. And I'll mention Niels Longfist on the second power play unit for Dallas. Like I said, Colorado penalty kill, not very good.
Vegas Golden Knights, Vancouver Canucks. Vegas has a 3.4 total. Canucks have a 3.1. Logan Thompson, probable. Thatcher Demko, confirmed. Connor Garland, Bo Horvat, JT Miller, Kuzmenko, Pedersen, Mikheyev. That means Hoglander down the third line with Brock Besser and Sheldon Dries. Status quo for the Golden Knights here. This is an interesting late hammer, and there isn't much ownership on either side. Vancouver, pretty reliant on the power play. Don't mind a one-off Brock Besser here. He's getting no ownership on the top power play at 4,500. I like going back to Vegas one here. What are you thinking?
Yeah, on the Vancouver side, I would say Besser is probably the only player I'm really interested in. Not a bad matchup against the third line from Vegas here. Vegas doesn't take a lot of penalties. Like St. Louis, they're one of the least penalized teams in the league, only 2.5 times shorthanded per game. And like you said, Vancouver is heavily reliant on the power play. It has been better lately, but I don't think this is really a great spot for the Vancouver power play. One-off Besser I think makes sense against the third line from the Golden Knights, but I'm not stacking anything from the Vancouver side. I agree with you. Back to the Vegas top line. Mark Stone had a couple goals in the last game. Jack Eichel had an assist in the shot bonus, so not a great game, but not a terrible one. The Vancouver top line has been playing better, the Horvat Miller line, but Vegas top line is still one of the best top lines in the league. Eichel's still shooting a lot. They're still getting good minutes. Vegas won for me.
Yeah. I have no faith in Vancouver blue line or Demko at this moment. So, yeah, I do really like Vegas. On the blue line, Alex Pietrangelo, 7,300. I have a hard time getting there with Yossi and Dougie Hamilton in the same price range. So, probably not too much on either side. Maybe Ethan Bear.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe Braden McNabb because he can get some blocks. But I think there are other guys earlier in the slate we talked about, like Cody Ceci and Alexander Romanoff, that I'd probably rather play.
Last game of the night, Ottawa Senators, 3.2 total, heading into San Jose. The Sharks have a 3.3. Talbot, probable. Capo Kakinen, confirmed. The only other line that rivals the St. Louis Blues top line in ownership is the San Jose top line. This is a very good spot for them. I will say, on the flip side, there isn't much ownership on the Ottawa top line of Tkachuk, Stützle, Batherson. Don't mind them. Also don't mind DeBrincat.
Yeah, I'll just mention San Jose 2 here because they have been playing reasonably well. That Couture, Barabanov, Nieto line, 3.2 expected goals for per 60 minutes. Now, they're only shooting 7%, so the actual goals haven't been there yet, but you get 2 of the 3 guys on the top power play unit. And Brassard and DeBrincat, their defensive numbers this year have been pretty bad. They play very high event hockey, so I think, a two-man of Couture, Barabanov makes a lot of sense here. I agree with you on the Ottawa top line. I think that it's not that bad of a spot, especially where Capo Kakinen is expected to start and not James Reimer. I think Ottawa's top line is one of those sneaky contrarian top lines that I would go to here tonight if you don't want to, play the much higher owned lines.
Yep. Chabot is out, so Jake Sanderson, top power play unit. Eric Brandstrom, 2,900 is fine. Carlson, 8,300.
Don't forget your boy, the Zoob, played 21 minutes in his first game back. Min price, 2,500. He's one of my favorite min price punts on the slate tonight.
Zooby dooby doo. Who you liking net tonight?
Jake Ottinger on both sites. Ilya Sorokin on DK for cheap. Carter Hart on DK for cheap. UC Saros and Jacob Markstrom on FanDuel.
Yeah, I will add in. Not much there. Stu Skinner, I will add.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Who you liking as your hat trick pick?
I think this is the second time I've gone with him this year, and he completely fell on his face the first time, but let's see if we can go 1 for 2 here. Jack Hughes, New Jersey Devils.
I'm going to go Jordan Kyrou, make it chalky.
Why not?
I was going to go Dougie Hamilton to be really spicy, so I'll just throw that out there, but I didn't want to go 2 Devils. So for Slim, I'm your host, Josh Harris. we'll be back on Wednesday for a 15-game slate. And by the way, Team USA, girl, Canada playing on Wednesday during the show. Good luck, everybody.
Good luck tonight, everyone.